Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Tom. I wanted to. I had a brain blast the other day, uh, where I was talking to somebody about uh, something we call chronic pain, where it's like you grow up in a crappy, I don't know, crappy environment, and then you just experience chronic pain and it sucks. And a brain blast hit me where I was thinking about tech addiction, and I was thinking about how, in a way, tech addiction is like suffering from chronic pleasure, meaning that we are stuck in a place where we're constantly in the state of euphoria or in a state of pleasure all the time. And so it's like chronically, we're like are chronically in a state of only pleasure and there's no pain. And it hit me, and I wanted to make a video about it. I wanted to make a video explaining uh, concepts around chronic pleasure and how it functions and pre-contemplation and latent awareness and concepts like this. So let's just dive in, explore this. So the first thing is something that I remarked on in my last video is when we are on our phone or on playing a video game or like doing something, this is like our behaviors. And then sometimes we might get hit with like a moment where we are like step away and we feel a bit of pain and then we go back to doing that thing, right? And so this is like the one hit KO zombie idea where we have pain for a moment, and then we get one hit KO'd, and then we go, our behavior dictates us to go back, and then we go here. And so this is what we call chronic pleasure because we're constantly seeking something that gives us pleasure, which is doing something which is going on our phone. So this is like the going on the phone kind of thing. Yeah. So I wanted to explain a few things around this. So if we are addicted to technology, one thing that we might relate to, so if we're doing this stuff for like, if we're in a state of chronic pleasure, which means like I would say like 10 plus hours per day that we're doing this, since chronic means like all the time. So if we're like constantly doing this, we're constantly looking at screens. What's inevitably going to happen is that is going to conflict with like what we want to do or what we should do. So it's like we're going to have some thoughts while we are doing this, right? So like at this moment right here, I'm going to have some kind of like contradictory thought. There might be one here. There might even be one right here that actually gets us to the point of like being in this pain for a moment, right? And then like a bit later on, we might have like more thoughts that kind of pull us this way. And then we have another one that gets us into another moment, and then, maybe a couple minutes or something, and then we go back to it. Something like this, right? And then we have a thought right here, makes us do that. So what do those thoughts look like? So I have a few examples. So like, I want to get off my phone. Like I just want to get off. Like this is just repetitive dog. This is a repetitive dog. I just want to get off my phone, bro. This is garbage, right? Like this content is just crap. Or like I should do something else. I should go do the laundry. I should go cook something. I should do so. What am I doing? I have a term paper due. I need to go to work. That can be a bit different, since that can actually get us to actually go to work and do more things. But anyway, I'll just include it for grins. So these are the sorts of thoughts that we might have while this is happening. So why don't those thoughts like actually change our behaviors very much, right? So like essentially our behaviors are this, right? It's like behavior is just like this. And then all our thoughts can do is just be like little blips, right? And it can be a very frustrating experience. So I wanted to explore why that experience is so frustrating. So this is what we call the pre-contemplation stage. Or we could, in some cases, this can also be in contemplation to an extent, I would say. But I want to focus on this as like being in the pre-contemplation stage where our behaviors are very driven by subconscious processes, and our thoughts don't actually, these thoughts that we have, these random meandering thoughts, don't actually have very much power over what we do. In the pre-contemplation stage, I think it's like what happens. Like we'll constantly have these thoughts, but then we don't actually do anything. So there's a couple part of the brain that I wanted to focus on. So there's like a prefrontal cortex here, and then we have like a limbic system over here, which is related to emotions. So we have limbic system, which is like emotions. And then we have another part of our brain, which may or may not be related to the limbic system. I don't actually know that much about it, but I know very much about the experience of it, which I like to, in my experience, it's kind of like an odometer between pain and pleasure. So there's pain and then there's pleasure. And so it's like going from 0 miles per hour to 100. So over here is like 0, and like over here is 100. And like at 0, it's like, you know, get me the fuck away from this. And then at 100, it's like bliss and euphoria and amazingness. And so, and then we have our prefrontal cortex, which is related to thoughts. And so what happens when we are in the pre-contemplation stage is that our thoughts are not dictating our behaviors. It's actually these two parts of our brain, right? Our emotions are dictating things. Like, so this is going to govern pain as well, like pain as like an emotional thing. And then this sort of like pain-pleasure balance calculation / like just something here is also going to dictate it. And these parts of our brain are aware of what's happening, but what we call this is like a latent awareness. Or like beneath an awareness, beneath the conscious, right? So it's like we are, like, our brain is aware that we're feeling pain and pleasure, but we are not aware of it. We're just having these thoughts of like, oh, I want to get off my phone, this is garbage, I want to do something else, all these kinds of things. But then our brain is processing, okay, how can I get the next hit of dopamine? How can I get the next hit? How can I do the next thing? What's the next video that I can watch? What's the comment that I need to read to feel the most secure? Like, it's like there, but we are not aware of it until we pay very close attention to that part of our brain. And so when these two parts of our brain govern our behavior, what ends up happening is that our subconscious dictates our behaviors, right? And we get stuck in the loop of chronic pleasure, right? Because our brain is like, hey, like we need that pleasure. So there's like different ways in which I've experienced this. So like one way, for example, is like I'll be feeling a lot of pain, right? And I just want the pain to like move a little bit less, right? Like I'm in a really stressful situation and I just want to get a little bit less pain, so we can use our phones for this way. Or if we're experiencing like some like small amount of pain, like the one hit KO zombie I think relates to this pretty well, then we might just be like, no, I want like more pleasure, right? And then so we make it go like this. The other thing that tends to happen is that when we have downregulation of dopamine, so downregulation, is what ends up happening is this pain-pleasure balance gets kind of screwed up. And so actually like this like part of the pie just kind of gets eliminated because we have fewer dopamine receptors, and it's just like kind of screws things up. And so now like our average is we're just like feeling pain, and we actually need our phones to feel like kind of normal, right? So like, you know, this is like average, or like a 50, right? And then this is less. And then there might be like some variability, right? Like I play a game of Hearthstone and it was super dank, and then I feel a bit of pleasure from that, you know. Or then I play another game and then I lose and then it sucks. But hey, at least it's better than not being on my phone at all, right? So this can also happen with this. But the basic idea is you have conscious and subconscious, and what's happening is that these subconscious processes are dictating our behaviors. The final thing to go over is that how do we change this, or how do we fix this? So this is where we go from pre-contemplation to contemplation. Whoa, that was crazy. This is where we go from pre-contemplation to contemplation. And this is, I swear to God, I'm gonna like make this a point in every freaking video that I make. So so what we want is awareness of the subconscious process, right? So like there's this subconscious process that's happening, right? There's these emotions that we are experiencing. There's pain. There's this pain-pleasure balance. That's all in our subconscious. So what we need to do is we need to become aware of that subconscious process. So then if you ask me how do I do that? Do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. You just sit, and what's going to happen is you're going to feel pain. And when you feel pain, what you're going to notice is, okay, now I'm feeling pain. Now I'm over here. Your brain is going to want to pick up the phone. Your brain is going to want to turn this thing. And what you need to do is you need to become aware of that process, of that tension. So in terms of this chart here, what doing nothing is you're doing this, right? You're extending this period out. And what you're going to feel, just like how these thoughts are they're trying to pull you away from the phone. What's going to happen is your subconscious process, while you do nothing, is going to pull you up towards your phone. And you're going to feel a tension. And at some point, you're probably going to like give in and go to it, right? But and the other idea here is that we want to do nothing often. So we don't want to do nothing for long periods of time. Like the goal is not like do nothing for 2 hours straight. The idea is do nothing for 5 minutes. Like just try to do nothing for 5 minutes. And then like if that's too much for you, you can try 1 minute. And then like, if you make it 5 minutes, like try to go for 10 minutes, try to go for a little bit longer. In my personal experience, I'm currently on a detox where I'm not allowing myself to do high dopamine stuff. And I found that like I'll do nothing for like around 20 minutes on average before I'll just start doing something, like just a random thing away from screens. And then I'll do it up to like 30 to 40 minutes max. But yeah, the idea behind doing nothing is you're going to become aware of certain pains that you're going to have, and that this is going to be a process, and you just have to kind of learn to become aware of this by doing nothing. Hopefully this video helps you guys. Have a nice day. Have a nice life. Take care. All the love, all the power, and GG no re.